Alrighty. And we're live in 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining us here today. I am with our awesome Associate Attorney, Cynthia Milian, and today we're going to be discussing on a new topic that we have not talked about previously. And I have to say it really fast in order for me to get it right. And the webinar is going to be over late-breaking prosecutorial discretion memo and what it means for your immigration court case. I'm going to let Attorney Milian give us a little bit more information as to what prosecutorial discretion means and like what even is that, right? But a little bit background on our attorney here. She's the associate attorney at Powers Law Group. She mainly focuses on family-based removal, defense, immigration. So she is our champion at court. She is the president-elect of MABA, the Mexican American Bar Association. So thank you for your service, Cynthia. And she is also a pro bono attorney for the Montgomery County Immigration Law Clinic whenever she is not here at PLG. So I'm gonna let her take it away with the learning objectives, and feel free to drop down your questions down below. We will be answering them at the end of the webinar.
Dana, for the introduction. Yes, so as Dana was mentioning, there was a memo that was released actually on May 27th that basically it was titled Interim Guidance to OPLA, the Office of the Chief Counsel for the Department of Homeland Security regarding civil immigration enforcement and removal policies and priorities. Basically, it was a memo discussing what about prosecutorial discretion is something that we're going to see coming back. And there's a lot of things right in there that could be beneficial to you. So let's dive right into it. So what is prosecutorial discretion? Prosecutorial discretion refers to a choice that is made by the Department of Homeland Security about whether to enforce the immigration laws against a person or group of people. So this kind of discretion is necessary because the reason why they've decided to go forward with this is because it helps set some priorities and because of limited resources. So not always does the Department of Homeland Security have the budget or maybe the resources to try every case when an individual may be eligible for another benefit outside of immigration court. And so we saw that prosecutorial discretion was something that was eliminated under the previous administration. But this new memo, what it basically says is that it gives the Department of Homeland Security attorneys the ability to exercise this discretion to either dismiss or administratively close, or you could say something like temporarily close cases considering the non-citizens based on how long they lived in the US, if they have family members that are serving in the military, if they themselves have ties to the US, how they arrived to the US, if they have prior entries, how long they've worked in the US, if they're either a victim, a witness, or a plaintiff in a criminal or civil proceeding, and whether there's humanitarian factors present in the case that can include if they have serious medical condition, age, their pregnancy, their status as a child, or if they're the primary caregiver of their family. So if, for example, a non-citizen has been charged or convicted of a crime in the US or abroad, the attorneys can also consider such factors as, how long ago was that criminal activity? Has the person rehabilitated? Have they, do they have a clean criminal record from the moment that crime was committed until present? Is there any other extenuating circumstances involving that offense or conviction? The length and time of that sentence imposed, the length of time since the offense or conviction occurred, and whether there was any subsequent criminal activity for that person, with that person, and whether they are a threat to public safety. So how can this affect your case? So prosecutorial discretion affects your case in the way that whether or not you're going to go forward with a deportation, right, or a removal proceeding, or if the case is going to be completely closed, right? So it gives more flexibility for ICE attorneys and prosecutors to help clear the backlog in the court system, and also, to pursue other avenues, right? So for example, we're going to talk about it in this next slide. So cases that qualify for termination. So for example, if you have members that are in the military, an immediate family member, a parent, or a child, right, that is in the military, if you're eligible for this, if you don't have a criminal case or any criminal matters, then potentially allowing a termination of your case could make you eligible for something called parole in place, where you can get paroled, you know, an I-94, a document that demonstrates that you've been, you know, lawfully entered in the US, and then you can become eligible for an adjustment of status, which is to become a permanent resident. So that is something good for someone that may be in removal proceedings. Maybe you were pursuing cancellation of removal, or an asylum case that maybe, you know, throughout the passage of time has become weaker if the country has improved. And, you know, this is something that you can become eligible for now that you are able to terminate the case. So another group of people that may be eligible or that can qualify are, for example, if you are eligible or have applied for TPS. We saw recently that many people became eligible for TPS from Venezuela, people from Haiti. If you have a case pending in court, but you also have a TPS application pending, then you can also get temporary relief, potentially getting an administrative closure. Now, that doesn't mean that your case is completely terminated, right? That your case is no longer before an immigration judge, but it means that it is temporarily closed and you can go forward with your application for temporary protected status without having to worry about going to a court hearing. This is also good for individuals that may be eligible for a provisional waiver. So we've had webinars in the past where we've discussed what a provisional waiver is, who's eligible, you know, who are the qualifying relatives. So if maybe you entered, you know, a long time ago and you were placed in removal proceedings and you have family members that are going to suffer hardship if you were to get removed from the US, then you may consider a provisional waiver that allows you to do your entire process while in the US, and you still have to go out of the US, but you have to go, you'd only go for about a week and a half or two for your interview. This is another group of people that may qualify for termination are people that are special immigrant juveniles. Also individuals that may have compelling humanitarian factors. So for example, if you have a serious health condition, if you're older, if you're pregnant, or you're a minor, or the primary caregiver, or you have an immediate family member, household member who's suffering from physical or mental illness, or if you're a victim of domestic violence, human trafficking, or any other serious crime, then you are likely to be eligible for your case to either qualify for termination or for administrative closure. So here in Houston, we're still seeing, you know, how this is going to be implemented. The Office of the Chief Counsel here in Houston has not given us any guidance yet as to how we request this. We're closely monitoring this. Again, this memo was dropped, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of immigration attorneys are still dissecting it and seeing, you know, who can potentially qualify. But this essentially does open up a lot of opportunities for individuals that probably were not eligible in the past to do something with USCIS, like military parole in place, or even a provisional waiver. So if you've consulted with an attorney in the past and considered whether or not this is something that you may qualify for, but for, you know, you being in immigration court, then this is something where, you know, you should consult with an attorney so that you can talk about what are the next steps. You know, how can you go about requesting that termination of your case, or requesting even for an administrative closure, so that you can pursue a provisional waiver or any other benefit that you may be eligible for. So this is great news for individuals that are waiting, that have been waiting for prosecutorial discretion. So definitely give us a call if you have a question, or if you want to know a little bit more about how this can benefit you. And now on another topic that I want to touch on briefly before we end today, we saw recently that the Central American Minors Program, the CAM program, is something that is going to restart very soon. So as you know, this was a program that was enacted a few years ago. In 2016, it was expanded to allow certain categories of people to join this. So basically, there's two phases for this program. So this program was halted in January of 2018. So now what they're doing is through the phase one, they're going to reopen the applications for the individuals that are interested in continuing. And the second phase is for individuals that are now, interested in qualifying and applying for this program. So the qualifying parent must have been an individual. Sorry, I'm reading from the memo that we just got. At the time of the application was at least 18 years old and lawfully present in the U.S. as permanent resident, temporary status, parole, deferred action, deferred enforced departure, or withholding of removal. The qualifying child is either in El Salvador, Guatemala, or Honduras at the time of the application. At the time of the application, the child must have, the individual, the qualifying relative, must have been a child, genetic step, or legally adopted, unmarried, under 21, and like I said, a national of El Salvador, Guatemala, or Honduras. So if you did age out, if you're over 21, after your qualifying parent submitted an application prior to November 9, 2017, you may still be considered eligible for the purpose of current adjudication if you remain unmarried. So this is something that if you are from Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, and you have a status or were going forward with this before the case was halted in 2018, then now is the time to speak to an attorney to see, how you can get that process restarted, or if you want to consider potentially starting a new process under the Central American Minors Program, then definitely give us a call so that we can talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to turn it over to Dana for the end of this.
Yeah, so we actually have a question here, Attorney Million, and the question is, does this pathway lead to eligibility, receive a green card, and then citizenship?
Yes, so prosecutorial discretion on its own does not lead to citizenship, nor does it lead to residency, right? It can provide a way for you to become eligible, right? So if you're able to terminate your case to then apply for military parole in place, or to do a provisional waiver, then those separate processes can eventually lead to residency and then citizenship. But prosecutorial discretion alone does not grant you, or does not grant a pathway towards that. It's it allows you, if you have the qualifying relatives, if you have the time in the U.S. that's necessary, then it can open up a door. But the prosecutorial discretion in and of itself doesn't provide that. But that's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, if you all have any more questions, please feel free to comment them down below. But continuing on next week. Oh, and if you have any other questions, additional questions, or have any other topics that you all would like for us to discuss, you guys can email them here at contact@rubypowerslaw. You can also send us a message through our website, or just simply give us a call. But yep, so our next week webinar is going to be on details on the I-751. It's a petition to remove conditions on residents and frequently asked questions. And our speaker is going to be our lovely Attorney Million, who we have here today. And let me see if you all have any other questions or have missed any of our previous presentations. You can follow us at Ruby Powers Law on all of our social medias. Join us live Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Central Time on our Powers Hours, where we give a little preview and anything that's been going on in the news recently to our viewers, and then our Friday weekly webinars, of course. And you can find our schedule on our website that you can register in advance for any of them that you would like. And it looks like we got another question here. You saying that if I have an asylum? So they're saying that if I have an asylum, can I drop it and apply for military?
So it depends. That's a very specific question. It really depends on several factors. Remember that we talked about what factors the Department of Homeland Security, the ICE, chief counsels are going to look into to determine if they can exercise prosecutorial discretion to either terminate or to administratively close the case, right? So if you are currently in the military or you have a family member who's in the military, this is something that you should consider and talk to an attorney to see, if you have that relationship. I'm definitely not saying for you to go join the military so that you can start a process. You want to be careful with that. So I hope that answers your question. And if not, it seems very specific. So give us a call so that we can talk more in depth about your case.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for all these awesome questions. And again, if you all have any questions that's case specific to you or a family member or a friend, give us a call so we can set up a consultation to go more in detail for what is the best possible process for your case with our attorneys here. But that'll be the end of our webinar. We're going to be going live with this same topic in Spanish at 11:30. So if you are a Spanish speaker, feel free to join. Our registration link is on our Facebook and will also be on our website. But thank you all so much, and you all have a great rest of your day.